2025 meeting with Town of Pulaski Planning Commission. Can we get a roll call?
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Mr. Compton?
Here.
Mr. Schrantz? Mr. Hale? Mr. Turcott?
Here.
Mr. Clark?
Here.
And Chairman Meyer.
Here. We have a quorum, although I don't know that we have any official business we have to conduct other than the minutes of the last meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the May 12th meeting? Any questions, comments, concerns?
Wasn't there something to say?
That's fine. I would just like to note that, I believe it was, I had it with me, but anyway. There was a mention of, the comprehensive plan needing to have the development added to it, that 177 acres. I don't know what the timing of that would be. We don't really have to have it on the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is, it all shows as residential, so, and business, which is really what we're talking about anyway, so. I think it fits with the comprehensive plan from that perspective already. But if we were to rezone the property, that should be reflected on the zoning map for sure. Have to be. But it still would all be residential and business, right? Okay. Would anyone like to move that the minutes be approved? Got a motion? Get a second? Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Approved. Thank you. So we don't have any public hearings tonight. That'll change soon, I'm sure. New business, the 177 acre rezoning proposal. Manager Todd Day is speaking for the town. The town still owns the property. Is there, does Shaw have an option to purchase it yet or not?
Yes.
So they could be deemed to have adequate control if they wanted to come and speak for the property as well, according to the regs.
According to your code book, the owner is the only one that can change zoning, but we're working in conjunction with them, if that's what you mean.
Well, one thing in red, it says if they've got an option to buy it, that can be deemed sufficient control. So, however you want to handle it, is what I'm saying. I think it would work. So do you want to update us on what's going on?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to say thanks for the conversation earlier today. Sure. Every locality seems to have a different process when it comes to how they rezone and zone, and some spot zone, some don't spot zone. There's particular purposes where spot zoning can come into play. And you'll hear a lot of people say that it's illegal to spot zone. It's absolutely not illegal. It's not preferred. It actually sets yourself up for a lot of people making assumptions, especially if you're dealing with somebody you know. And zoning obviously is a legal practice of local government that's recognized by Virginia legislation for the governing body to do. In conjunction with the planning commission, includes public hearing, notifying all neighbors, etc., etc. So both of them are a legit process. So what we've got in front of you tonight is you've got an existing zoning which presently exists, and I also want to apologize to you. I'm not real familiar with your R restrictions or your B restrictions. You can ask questions. I'll obviously have to get back to you on a lot of them. The drawings that are against the wall over there have been proposed by Shaw Development, and they've also been viewed by council for a number of months. So there's been a lot of planning. If you look at those drawings and once construction breaks ground, you might come back and say, well, that's not what the drawings look like. Well, it's an idea of what he wants to do. Needless to say, when you get in there and you hit terrain, it's got rock, you go around it, you reroute the roads. And I don't have it with me tonight, but there is a list of structures that he's wanting to put in there. And again, Cancel and myself have been working on that project for a number of months, along with Shaw, almost a year, to tell you the truth. So the zoning map over there to the left is a requested rezoning in order to accomplish what you see against the wall over there. And you can challenge that and say, well, some of that information is not accurate and it has changed, and I will absolutely agree with you. And it will be a moving target even after that rezoning takes place. One thing you'll notice on there is you still have the area that Hagen presently owns, and I don't know what y'all would call that building. It's just right beside the hospital. You don't see the zoning included in that, but I've got in front of me, and I'm not bringing it to you formally tonight, a request for rezoning and a special exemption request to include in that building. So my conversation with David Hagen has rolled into the mass development of this project and trying to figure out what's in the best use of that building that he's got, that he's obviously trying to trade or move or sell, however how you want to do that. So it just made sense while we're in the zoning discussion or zoning process to include any of that property up there that could potentially be an asset to the development. So one of the requests he's got here is to take that building to a B2. He's also negotiating right now with the hospital. So he's on top of the B2, he's also requesting that the RO be in place as a continued exemption of that B2, which will allow the hospital. So ironically, the B2 does not recognize the hospitals, and not in this situation anyway. So again, I'm bringing it to y'all tonight. I'm not looking for any action. However, I will next meeting. But I know that I'm anxious to work with the planning commission, even if you've got to have special called meetings. I know Cancel's anxious to get it off the ground and get that project started. I know the community's excited about it. Some are excited in a positive way, some are excited in a negative way, but I do want to work with this board in order to proceed forward. And I'll try to answer any questions that you may have. I'm probably not going to have the answers, but I can get back to you.
Yeah. Man, you may remember better than I do. I don't know if Mr. Clark was on here yet or not. We did take up definitions and for where a hospital is allowed, did we not? And did we not approve those to be allowed in certain business districts? I thought it was B1, B2.
I'm not sure we got as far as approving them.
Okay. I was gonna ask if council ever took that up or whether we did. Because I think we did take a vote to allow it in all the business districts with the exception of the highest level, maybe industrial type.
We definitely didn't allow an industrial section.
Right. So
I'm trying to remember if we.
you might wanna verify how far we got with that. I don't remember.
I can absolutely look back.
Because if we did, then B2 probably would work without an exception for medical stuff, mostly most medical.
Well, I'll absolutely look back and see if we can dig it up. I can tell you that what we have found so far is it's not, but that doesn't mean, my history.
This would have been recent. This would have been recent.
Okay. When Summer was here, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
If they never took action on it, then.
It's very possible we never took formal action, but we were getting ready to when she left. Cause I was, right as y'all were saying that, I was trying to find a map, and I found some minutes from 2023 that's got some discussion on it, but
There were a
skimming
couple.
it to see if I could find
There were a couple discussions that council had tabled.
it. Okay.
It was starting right when Todd started, or Manager Day started. So that may have been one of the discussions. I'll check back in those council minutes.
Yeah, it's very possible we got like definitions and things handled. We just never pushed it forward further than that.
Yeah, as of the March 22 version, hospitals were allowed in rural residential R1, 2, and 3 by special exception. So it would require that. And then I was pretty sure it was added to B1, 2, and 3 by special exception. But I'm not sure if it was that far back or whether eventually we never actually voted on it.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, and that's great news.
or
I mean,
if
that's good news.
if the council didn't, I don't know.
That helps me out a lot. I know where at least planning commission is at, and we'll go look for those minutes. And again, if we can't find it, we can just redo it for the paperwork. And a lot of times in local government, turnover of administration, and we're the world's worst at communicating. We're probably the world's worst at record keeping too. So, but we'll go back and take a look at it. See if we can.
Because I think the other half of that was removing the residential as allowed areas, allowed zones for hospitals. And it was I who didn't want to include the R1.
Right.
Because it currently is R1, and if they don't want to ask to rezone it, we shouldn't force them to, because it could put different restrictions on the property.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So unless they were agreeable to it, I didn't feel like that was appropriate right then. So like I said, it may never have gotten
We are booked under the B2. It doesn't have it until it gets a special acceptance. Last one hospital has it.
It does say that could be two? Okay, so it did get approved then? Okay,
That's good.
that's the current,
Thanks.
that's good, thank you.
That makes sense. We
I didn't look
probably
there.
didn't push it
Well,
as
this
a
is
fire
how
right
it
and push
happens.
it.
Well, I read a lot of this today, I didn't read that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so if it's B2, then anything hospital related would be okay.
A lot
You
of,
say it's in the existing code book?
It's right here.
One we have.
Okay.
That's
You gotta get up early.
That's one
to read,
thing.
man.
I get up a little early. Go home a little late maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's page 72.
Okay. So council obviously did move on it then.
Yep. The one thing that we talked about earlier was, when I first saw this idea and looked at the different things that were gonna be included, my first thought was it looked like a PUD to me. And I think that would be appropriate. And yeah, I did look at the Virginia code and our local code, as well. And, if the town sees it as in its best interest to allow this type of development, then it is fine for us to rezone it, as long as we got the right reasons and it's beneficial, right? So, I have concerns about R3 on such a large swath of land, knowing that the town has a contract with Shaw that wouldn't allow somebody to come in and just purchase the land from Shaw and then throw up 3-story apartment buildings all over the property. But it's our duty to look at what the best way to zone it is. And I'm seeing elements that fit with PUD, and I actually, after reading it over again today, it doesn't look to me like there's anything that would be a problem, right? Because the businesses are fine in PUD. You have the requirement of 30% green space, which obviously they'll have. You can't have more than 10.5 living units per acre. That would be what, 1,875 living spaces, which they're not gonna be anywhere close to that, so that's not a problem. and I think about 15% of it would have to be something, I can't remember, activity space, I think. So what they're doing fits under PUD. And that would give flexibility, one, to the developer to choose what needed to be where, right? The downside to them is we've got basically a preliminary plan, right? And we know that's subject to change. They don't have information from VDOT yet about the entrances and those kind of things. So the PUD requires a development plan, right? And that would come to us to recommend either approve it and send it to the council for their approval, or request changes that they could agree to or not. But anyway, in the end, it gives the town a little bit of control as you go through that process of having to make changes. Because we know there's rock, we know there's the waterway that runs through there, kind of a dry bed most of the time, unless we get big rain. And so they've got challenges with the site. And so we know some of what they conceptualize may change. If we say, okay, this is R3 and that's B2, they're limited to anything that is by right for B2 and R3 in those areas. I think R3 could be appropriate for where they're planning to put the townhouses over here and over there even, if that's what they do. We don't really know what exactly they're gonna build anywhere. I think when they get their official plan together, I think it'll be more apparent. But I think it's cleaner and easier to visualize for the public if you do it as PUD, and I think it fits. So that would be my suggestion, to consider that.
So, if I'm hearing you right, what he's got is B2, B3. You're saying that it would be easier for everybody if it was all just zoned to PUD?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because business is allowed in PUD, and it's all part of when you come in with the plan. When they give the official development plan to us to review, that's where they'll designate what they're gonna put where. And that's after they've done all this other, you've gotta have that plan to build and get their permits.
Right.
So, I just think it makes it clean and way easier.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely loosens up the flexibility for him to stay within borders, so.
We had that conversation with Shaw here, maybe February or March.
Mm-hmm.
There was some reason why it was kind of, they didn't seem to be fond of PUD, but I mean,
Well,
with a development
when I looked at there are things that, you put all kinds of things in a PUD, right?
Yeah, you just have to have a plan, it has to be.
It's just gotta be in the plan, right?
Yes.
So, in a way, it's a little more complicated when you look at it on the surface, but they don't have to include all those things. They don't have to include a school, but they could, if they wanted to. They could include a nursing home if they wanted to, but they don't have to. So, if they wanted to, it would have to be approved as part of the plan. If they want to change the plan, then they have to get approval. So, I don't know, if it's R3, it gives them freedom to do anything residential wherever they want. That's
The biggest risk to us if we code is R3 is one of your points of what happens if times get tough and they sell it off and somebody just wants to throw whatever on there.
well, the town has a clause or section in the contract with them that it comes back to the town as long as the town can afford to pay off the improvements they've made.
Oh, that's good. So
Like if they build
you'll
with
have
for
that-
broke,
you'll have that
then
taken care
it's
of.
problematic.
Yeah, that document's pretty lengthy, but just to give you an idea, if they build a road and there's 15 houses on there and then they decide to pull out, there's nothing owed. But maybe there was a road built to get to the road that they built. So reimbursement for that portion of the road and utilities, there's a portion of that would be paid back. So they won't be given or selling the property to any other entities, unless of course the town council reverses that contractual understanding. So it stays with the town. There's also language in there that allows Shaw, if he has an opportunity to capitalize on another developer. For example, he may work something out with Clayton Homes, with modulars, or definition of modular and free fee, depends on who you, but
That's fine.
so he may build one road with that. So he's got the flexibility to develop it under Boca Code.
Yeah, and I think even with the PUD, he can make a change and say, okay, well, we want to come in here and do modular homes, which are perfectly allowable in our residential districts. So, I mean, to me, there's no difference. There's nothing to distinguish modular homes from stick-built, site-built, as far as our review goes, right? We're not, I don't think they're built.
I think they are. Anytime you can take a house down the road 60 miles an hour and it doesn't fly apart, that's pretty good.
They're good enough for Dale Jr.
Yeah,
It's good
absolutely.
enough for those people, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just looking for some direction on how you want to proceed with that. I mean, if you're wanting me to go back to him and say a PUD, obviously I can write that up to him and give him the reason that the board wants to do that. Or so you just tell me how
I just
you.
think it works. I mean, it looks like a PUD, smells like a PUD. So, it worked for the houses across the way there, across Route 11, which you wouldn't really think that's a planned unit development so much because there's nothing there but homes, right? And they all kind of the same thing. But that was the plan.
So, just out of curiosity, for my own benefit,
Mhm.
if he wants to work in an R3, is there anything that? Because he's going to ask.
Yeah, I mean, the R3 just gives him flexibility to move anything he wants within the R3, right, housing wise. It also limits where he could decide he wants B2 or B1 or type of businesses. With the PUD, he may make the decision that he wants an L down here of B2, surrounding townhouses. And as long as they put it in the plan and council thinks it's okay, then it's fine.
You can always break it back out, can't you? If you put it all under PUD.
Yeah, I mean, the PUD designation incorporates the residential and business all as one.
It just has those steps to do.
It's just they have to have a plan for where they're gonna put things. And if the plan changes, they bring it back. Right? So, and that means they don't have to rezone anything again, but they would have to get permission to change the plan. And that would be a council decision. Although there could be exceptions where the zoning administrator could say it's okay, I think, but I think that would be pretty limited.
So,
I agree.
I concur with Kevin on the PUD thing.
so if everybody
The
can,
definition of PUD is exactly what the town wants for this, and shop.
okay,
Coming from this, what Ms. Hale provided,
okay.
it fits. And plus it makes him be a little bit more structured. If that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Sounds good.
And I think it makes sense for the citizens of the right? Because R3 butting up against R1, existing homes from the 70s or 60s, whenever they were built, you may get some pushback. The PUD also allows the commission and council to insist that the plans